What's up guys, and this is Sukesh Education. And today we're going to be looking at something called exceptions in Python. These exceptions aren't necessarily exception, it's something that's exceptional. These exceptions are something that is bad, that is often referred to as error handling. That's what we call exceptions in Python. It's how we facilitate or anticipate errors and take them into consideration. So without any further ado, let's get into our exercises. And also want to introduce you to my dog, Leo boy. Let me show him to you. Leo, come on, buddy. Come on. Yeah, this is Leo, guys, and yeah. I don't know why I have to show him to you, but yeah, we're going to be talking about error handling today. Off you go, Leo. Bye. Oh, you want to say hi to the camera? Hi. Leo, it's time to go. Time to go, baby. Bye. Alrighty. So, let's get into our video, guys. Now, let's take into consideration something rather simple. Alrighty? Something like x equals the integer value of the input. Okay, so what are we doing in this first line of code? We're basically asking the user for them to input a value of x already. That makes sense. So once the user has inputted a value for x, we're going to convert that, because anything that a user inputs is a string, right? We want to convert that string into an integer so that we can perform other calculations on it. So that's when we go on and let's test this code out. Let's see what happens. So it's asking me, alrighty, Sukesh, what's x? Wait, I've got to say bye to you. Good. I have to distance Mr. Leo boy. Being really irritating today. So what's x? So we can input a value called 5. Okay? Nice. It's finished processing the code. I mean, that's all we would expect, right? We didn't print it or anything. Now let's go on and let's print a. Let's print, let's put an f string in front that x is x. Alrighty, this makes sense. This is a value x, and we're saying x is the value of x, and that's why we use an f string. So when we go on and run this program, let's give x an input of 21. It outputs that x is equal to 21. Easy. If you have any questions in that step, comment down below. But this is normal Python, right? We want to look at error handling. So what we then do, what could go wrong? Let's think about it logically. What could go wrong in this piece of code? So let's go and test the extreme cases, alright? So extreme cases include stuff like 0, negative numbers, all that. So when we put in 0, okay, nice. It outputs 0. Now what if you input, let's test negative 1, negative numbers. Okay, nice. It works for extreme cases too. What's something else that comes to your mind? What if the user isn't, agreeing or obeying the laws, and what if they input a string? What if they input text? So what is x? What if they say cat? Well, we pop up with an error that says value error, okay? Invalid literal string for your int, alrighty? The user is prompted with this carry error. So what we're going to be looking in this video is how to deal with these cases. All good? So let me teach you. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of iterate this through a loop. We're going to use a loop, right? So we're going to say while true. What this says is while true. What the while true loop does is it basically just keeps It's an infinite loop, alrighty? So while something is true, while true is true, right? True is true always. So while true, we're gonna try. These are like actual inputs of Python. We're gonna try get the input from the user, okay? Make sure that all of this is indented because that's when Python knows that all of these are pieces of code. While true, try this, then break. So as soon as you get the input, right, if you get the actual input, break it right there. Except, this is another keyword in Python, except, so except isn't like, if you don't get what you are expecting, right, except value error. Because we can anticipate the type of error that's going to pop up. And this type of error, this type of error is called value error. So we can anticipate value error. And what do you do when it does pop up within value error? Well, we're going to print something like x is not an integer, input an integer. All good. That is good. And I think that is a solid piece of code. Yeah. So let me zoom out a little. Okay. So what we're seeing in this case is, let me go through the code again. No, actually, I want you guys to look at it and make sure you understand it. Try to make sense of it. By the way, no bookies are too good. Too good. Okay, so basically, all we're saying is the while statement, right? So we're saying while true is always true. So while true, what is true, you might ask? While true, as in everything is going according to plan. So while true, try this statement. Try this function, try this condition. Try get the input from the user while it's true. And then after you get the input from the user, break. So what does that do? It breaks it. It doesn't execute any of these things. Because remember how all these are indented under this? Once we get an input from a user that's an actual integer and that gets accepted as an input, we then break and we don't follow these two. These two are redundant, these two statements, line 5 and 6. We just skip straight to line 8 because we're breaking the code right there. We're breaking the loop. But if the user inputs something that's not an integer, then the code jumps to the 5th line. It's like, oh, okay, I can accept value error. Our code usually just pops off. But then we've said, take into consideration value error. If value error does pop up, it's all right. Let's just prompt the user to update an actual integer. So then you can print x as an integer. So that's all that's happening. So it's a loop that just keeps going on and on and on again. That's why it's good to use this in a loop, because if the user is just repeatedly typing a non-integer, right? Cat, dog, eagle is coming, then you can repeatedly just prompt the user, no, you dumbass, please input an integer. Alrighty? All good. So then, yeah, once an integer is inputted, then it goes on and prints x. That's how it works. Because what happens? This input, this is a variable, right? X equals to something. That's what we call a variable. So once the user inputs something, it gets stored in this variable, and that then gets transferred to line 8. So then if you run this code, this should be right. Fingers crossed. What's x? Let's go on and type dogs. let's go and type Leo. Oh, good. X is not an integer. Input an integer. Nice. Let's say Leo boy. X is not an integer. That's why it's good to have a loop. It just keeps prompting the user to, bro, just input an integer, bro. It's not that hard. So then when the user does finally input something like 50, it's going to print, well, X is 50. Nice. So that's a simple understanding or example of how exceptions work in Python. Thank you for watching, and yeah, stay safe. Peace.